Riete, Italy, September 2007. Asafa Powell holds the world record at 9.77. He's run that 3 times. But 3 weeks earlier, he only got bronze, losing to Tyson Gay. But the age of Bolt is 1 year away. Let's watch this. Powell runs a superb 70 metres and then puts the brakes on for the final 30 metres or so. And that's what we're going to look at in this video. How fast would he have run? So let's wind it back and take a really close look at that last 20 or 30 metres and then get into the numbers. So as we look at this again, he's got a superb drive phase. He's already miles ahead. His head is down. He's coming into his full running. When we start to look at these statistics, you'll see how good this was. And then as we transition to just the last few meters, we see that he, if we take a close look, puts on a full pimp outfit and walks stunningly through the door to a 9.74 world record. Okay, let's examine it for real and look at the splits. So I firstly want to put this 9.74 performance in perspective. So this is a timeline showing the world record progression. We have the Ben Johnson world record progression, which would look like that, and then joining the Asafa Powell period, the modern. This is now in orange, the modern world record. And we also have the what I've called the Carl Lewis timeline. So if the Ben Johnson pieces get wiped out, note that I don't have the 978 of Tim Montgomery mapped in here. In yellow, all runs 9.93 or better that aren't world records. You get an impression of the pressure put on the world record. So you can sort of see how many athletes, or rather how many runs, are being performed at or close to the world record. And of course here you have the 963 from Bolt, and here the 969s from, we have one from Bolt, which was a world record, Tyson Gay, Johan Blake, the only 3 men to have run under 9.7. But the area we're focused on today is this area here. Now at this time we had Asafa Powell running at 9.77. He did that 3 occasions. He did a 9.74, and that was the world's slowest world record.
Asafa Powell ist der schnellste aus den Blöcken. Jetzt kommt er und jetzt ist Usain Bolt nicht zu halten. Nein.
So let's take a closer look at this finish, and I'll show you how this was constructed. You'll notice the time here of 9.4. You can see that clock was slow. On the world record, that clock was slow in terms on the screen, and then it catches up afterwards. So all along, we were actually 2/10 out. I think there was a comment on one of the earlier videos about that, and I corrected for it. Here we have Asafa in Riete 2007. Here we have Asafa running 9.84, Beijing 2009. Tyson Gay is crossing the line, 9.71 he ran. So you can see how far that clock is out there in the bottom right. So this is Daniel Bailey. He ran 9.93 there. So we have here in red Daniel Bailey, 9.93. Here, Asafa 2009, Beijing, running 9.84. Tyson Gay, 9.71. Bolt, long gone, 9.58, crossing the line, already celebrating. So now we can see that this is Asafa Powell running 9.74 and jogging. And so now why don't we take a look at how he would have placed next to this year's Paris Olympic final, just to give you some perspective of how awesome this run was, considering if we roll this back, he stopped running properly he really stopped running properly at I would say the 80 metre mark. And when we get into the splits, I think certainly the last 10 metres were ridiculously slow. He ran the last split in 0.9. And to give you an idea there, 0.86 I think is average. And so he wasted 0.04 of a second just in the last 10 metres. So let's move that up so we can see just his form, how slow he was going here. Now let's run him forward. Look at that. I mean, the guy is... He's barely... there's any effort in there. Look at that, just lackadaisically across the line. 9.74. And it's just incredible that he could do that. It's such an amazing run. I think we're going to show that he would have been the fourth man to run in the 9.6s if he just kept going that day. So one way to look at this is to create a look at this year's final, which was 9.79 Lyles and Thompson, 9.81 Fred Kerley. Add in the 9.79 from Ben Johnson and line up the line with Powell, 9.74. He's not that far ahead because he's just jogging. And then obviously Bolt and Tyson Gay, who ran 9.71, Bolt 9.58. So that is obviously extremely roughly estimated. But now let's get into the deep analysis of the split times to see how Powell would have done. So for those of you who don't want to hang around for this big spreadsheet of numbers, the final conclusion is that Asafa would have run a 9.66 that day. If you want to find out why that is, please stay with me. But the answer is Asafa Powell would have run 9.66 seconds had he not slowed down on that day in Riete, in Italy, and we would have had really something stunning. Thank you. Now on to the analysis. So what I've gone ahead and done here is collect split data from all kinds of places. So, the quality is probably variable, but some of it's good, and who knows. We have basically in column F reaction time, then 10 meter, 20 meter, 30, all the way to 100, and you get the total times. And these are some of the best times in history that I could find. And where I had complete data, I would use it, and then in certain cases I would have to interpolate. Now for this video we're really looking at Riete 2007. For that I had the reaction time. I didn't have the 10 meter and I had 20 to 100 meters, and then I also wanted to look at Powell's best ever time, which was 9.72. That was in Lucerne. It was a year later, 2008. And I managed to collect the reaction time actually from a different source, but I just had 20, 40 and 50 meters, and obviously the 9.72 at the end. So I was really trying to sort of fill in the gaps. But this is a really, really interesting heat map, and the more I looked into it, the more interesting it became, if you're kind of into these things, which I clearly am because I'm doing these videos. So, I've got Tim Montgomery here, Powell. Obviously, we're going to see Bolt. So these are the individual split times. Green is the best, red is the worst. And so you've got reaction times, 10 minutes, and then the final thing. Obviously, some of the best times ever. I was very, very interested to look at Xu Bingtan because he famously ran a fantastic 60 meters. When he did this 9.83, you could see that he really got into his running early and then red-lined, if you like, on the way out to get that 9.83 time. So, this leads to a number of conclusions. We can have a Mr. Best if we take the best of all of it, and reaction time really doesn't matter in this case, and I'll look into that a bit for you as well. But here's the best time, 9.49. So in terms of observable splits, 9.49 is Mr. Best. Of this group, 998 is the worst, and the average is 982. That's a pretty elite stuff. So we've got here, just for example, we've got Maurice Green, world record 1999 979, matching Ben Johnson's. I actually have Ben Johnson in here. There he is. We've got Ben Johnson. We've got Carl Lewis, same date, running 992. That was on the Carl Lewis timeline. That's a world record. Tim Montgomery, obviously world record holder. And then we have this year's crop, if you like. You've got Noah Lyles, Kishane Thompson, Fred Kerley, Simbine, Jacobs. And you can see, just with the eye, why Bolt was so good. He had the highest top speed, the lowest splits, and he was able to hold it deep into the race in a way that no one else could. Now, someone absent from this, I couldn't find the data yet, is I have nothing on Johan Blake. I'd be really, really interested if someone has anything on Johan Blake. And I also don't have very good data on Tyson Gay. I have one here, which was the very wind assisted, so very windy 4.1. So I've left it out. That was a 968. And you can see actually these are the fastest 10-meter splits ever recorded. So that meaning the highest top speed, essentially. Not quite true, but roughly estimated. So you can see immediately Bolt here, all green. That's his 963. That's his 958. For this video, I wanted to look at Asafa to see what he did. How fast could he have run? So we can select him. And also for great reference, I'm going to have Bolt. And I'm also going to have Lyles. And you'll see why in a moment. So now we have the spreadsheet with the data collected, essentially. So we've got here Powell's 977s. That first one being a world record. And when we look at the pressure on the world records, which I'll very briefly do in this video, but going deep perhaps on another video, I'll just do that now. So this is the chart where I'm really trying to understand the pressure on the world record. So this lowest bound here, this is the world record. This is the Ben Johnson timeline coming down there. You can see Ben Johnson was full decade, 11 years ahead of where he ought to be. And there's Asafa Powell, 977. So 977, but you can see the pressure being put on that. Powell, 978. Bolt, 976. That's when Bolt was really starting to come on. Tyson Gay, 977. Tyson Gay, green is Tyson Gay. This here, Bolt. This must be Blake. So you can see the pressure being put. Just the number of different athletes making the number of runs at that boundary just goes up and up and up. But for a while, Powell reigns supreme here. For another time. So we come back here. And we have Powell's reaction times and his best ever splits. And this here is the run in question. This is the world record 974, the world's slowest world record. And look, he ran that last 10 meters fully 0.05 of a second slower than he had run the 977s. In fact, all of his other ones are 8.6. There's that one 8.5. But you can see that he really, although he was slowing down tremendously, that's because he was actually faster than he had ever been. He'd run 8.3, 8.3, 8.3. And previously he'd done 8.4, 8.4, 8.5. So he held that pace. He got there quickly, as he had done actually one time before, twice, and once after. He held that pace better than he had ever done before. And then that 8.6 is a travesty. He really lifted off. And that is obviously just an incredible aberration. So if he hadn't done that, he would have been the fourth man to run in the 9.6s. And this is just a look at the best of Asafa's times. So just taking the minimum from all of that. But I've got to say, I think here and here, I think it demonstrates that he really did slow down in the last 20 metres, because he was maintaining that speed so nicely in such a relaxed fashion. That 8.6, I believe, would have been an 8.4, and that, I think it's fair to say, would have been 8.5. So I would imagine a 9.66 from this. If this was a 0.84, I think that's a fair thing to say. I think Powell, on that day, had he not slowed down, would have run 9.66. Now, a quick word about Noah Lyles, and for this one I'm going to actually put everybody back. So just cast your eye at this again. Once again, green is good, red is bad. And you see immediately Bolt was the master. He was just the best. He had the lowest times there. Deep green means it really is on its own. Simbine, I think this might be a data error. 8.5, 8.6, 8.1, 8.4 doesn't seem right to me. But here is my point. Lyles, he had a terrible start in that final. He had an appalling first 10 metres. He was dead last in that Paris 100 metres. And what is so amazing is he held, not only did he have a tremendous top speed, one of the best, behind Bolt, but he held it. He really held it well. So he gets as close to Bolt as anyone has got. And if that were an average time, 188, he would have been 0.07 of a second quicker, and that would have been a 9.72. So I think Noah Lyles could have had a 9.72, and I think there's a lot more in him, because his top speed is the best of the current crop. Simbine, I think it's an error, I say. Noah Lyles has the best sustainable top end speed, and now what he needs to do, he needs to go and ask Gatlin how to stay fit into his 30s, because Noah Lyles is 27, and from previous videos I showed that really is a sprinting peak, elite peak. But in the case of Gatlin, he was able to go low 9.8s all the way to 37, 38, which is the age of Bolt today. So that's a look. I think the answer is Asafa would have run 9.66 that day had he not slowed down. Thanks very much. Please like and subscribe and find any errors in this one too. Thank you.